and ultimately, a wife is going to be better at submission when she sees you
Hmm.
submitting,
That's right.
and it's more than just I'm going to submit to Christ, which for sure you
Yeah.
need to do. But that's kind of a nebulous thing, in the sense that what does that mean for me today? And what does that mean specifically with this issue with this particular kid? And what really has to happen is we have to bump up against each other
Yeah.
and we have to sin against each other. It's going to happen, shouldn't, but we should, when we sin and we confess and we go up and or when, what will routinely happen is one of our kids will sin against another kid and the dad, we had actually had a dad, uh, you know, he talked to my kid pretty abruptly and roughly,
Mm.
and I'm standing right there, and
Mm.
for a second, I was kinda like, "No, I'm actually okay with." He was acting kinda fool. I didn't My back was to it. I didn't
Yeah.
see it, and he was just it wasn't like, "Hey, Nate, can you maybe talk?" He just, like, called the kid's name,
Yeah.
and I was kinda like, "Well," a little bit rough, but, like, my son was being this way, and but then he was like, "Hey, I gotta apologize to your son. I kinda was um, a little bit sharp, and I for me, I wasn't outside the threshold that I needed to be like, "Dude, don't talk to my son that way," whatever. I could, like, it's an
Yeah.
opportunity for me to be like, "No, like, my son was in the wrong. We're in a body of believers. He saw it happen and he addressed it quickly. It's not something I need to talk to him about." But then he was even like, "I need to apologize,"
Yeah.
and then so he apologized. So that other side of it is my sons seeing men confess up the chain and down the chain,
Yep.
and in this sense, that's submitting to even somebody lower in the hierarchy, in a sense, to say that I'm submitting to God's law that's bigger than me. I violated that. And just because my position is over you hierarchy wise, I'm going to show submission to God's law by confessing my sin to you. And it doesn't make me a weaker leader. It actually makes me a stronger leader, and it shows that I'm in submission to God's word, and it's a demo. And by my kids being in a church with men like that, they are getting the gospel reinforced by others. It's not
Mm.
just, oh, dad's faith and mom's faith and what do they know, but they're seeing the whole um church, and they're seeing families walk that out. And then another side of it is just learning to, like, let people wrong you, and you don't have to go and confront them about everything. Like, there's
That's
an
right.
opportunity to cover in love and keep moving,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Yep.
And I've talked with people about this, my pastor even specifically. It's like we are so comfortable in church together. We're not having to pretend. We're not, those of us that are, I think, really getting the full experience. We're not like, we're acknowledging who we are in Christ. We're acknowledging, and then we're looking at each other, hopefully more and more every day, like Christ looks at us, is sinless because of Christ's blood. And that opportunity to walk that out really tangibly in the day to day, and not let bitterness build up, and have discussions about it, and when there needs to be stuff confronting, we can. But by and large, like, there's not a lot of that happening. There's a lot of confessing happening, and there's a lot of sanctification and taking on our own sin. When you're with a group of people that are all doing that and serious about that, it works.
Hmm.
It works well, and I think that um the tendency can be, when people start to see your faults, uh, and be able to call you out about it, that you need to run, and go find a new church and automatically find some minor doctrinal point that's actually really been a thing all along. Just so happens to coincide with the fact that we just called you out about something sinful you just did.
Right.
But now this doctrinal issue is super big, and I got to go to the next church down the road.
Mm.
That's the
Mm.
tendency, and I've seen a lot of people do that in our church. And honestly, I see little blips and little screenshots into their life on social media, or hear about the marriage that is no longer a thing
Mm.
or whatever. And it's tragic. And that's the conversations that I try to do with the ones that I have, the equities. It's like, hey man, this is generationally um, significant decision you're making right now to
Mm.
remove your family from this fellowship and to go to somewhere that doesn't know you as well. Because we love you still. We know who you are. We know your faults, and we love you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna and it's uncomfortable to have people know your faults and to know who you are and to be able to see through the veneer maybe that you're trying to throw up certain days or whatever. But I think it's also incredibly comfortable to have somebody come up and be like, "You okay, dude? Like something seems, and just be like, this week was hard,
Yeah.
and tell me about it, Okay, sweet. Can I pray for you for real quick and send a follow up text? Hey, I'm just checking in. How's it going? And these kind of things happening organically among men, and it's really hard to have that happen if you're not there. If you're showing up, you're running out the door as soon as the sermon's over. You're not hanging out afterwards and letting your kids sin against each other. It's not good, and I think that's you have to be comfortable enough in who you are and what decisions you've made that even when it's challenged, you're like, all right, let's do this. We're about to go, and, even just with the stuff on Twitter, like I started challenging these different positions, you can just kind of see the preciousness of these conclusions you come to and not wanting to actually logically work it out and to react a certain way. And it's like, come on, dude, like I actually agree with you on these things, but these are some things that um, obviously not talking about. I mean, it happens with the church too, unfortunately on X, these kind of things are happening between pastors and things like that. And, I have been told that, and and I've talked to you about this is when I'm doing these I'm at U.S. embassies and we got USAID and all these different political agencies and things trying to figure out how to work together and build coalitions and things like that. I want to see the church doing that. I want to see, families, which are essentially like little combat units and squads, becoming, platoons of squads and platoons and all coming and getting their marching orders from Christ and getting their marching orders from a guy that's breaking it down for what it looks like at their level and then executing at their level. And I was thinking about before as I was listening to Hegseth's thing, it's like, I don't think there's a lot of Marine Corps general poking at Army general over here and making
Mm.
fun of him and saying like, cause he's worried about his troops. He has his area of operation. He has this thing that he's in charge of and he's got to do adjacent unit coordinations. We're in overseas. There's even for special operations, we're going to go into these areas that a regular Army unit is kind of in control of. So we're still going to coordinate. Hey, we're doing a hit over here. Do you have any guys in this area? We don't want any friendly fire, like kind of those kind of things. But you're not talking to somebody like when Iraq and Afghanistan are going simultaneously, you're not sharpshooting what is going on in Kabul when you're in Kirkuk in Iraq, like
Mhm.
because the war is raging hot in Kirkuk or in Mosul or these places that you're fighting and you have your troops and you're engaged. Like probably don't even know what's going on in Baghdad because you're in the fight. And I just don't. I don't think um like, the spiritual battle has a different flavor to it for sure. But I think I would really like to see commanders in their area of responsibility focusing on their area of responsibility more and
Mhm.
less on somewhere that's not their area of responsibility because in your AO, if you've set your troops up right and you're following the principles of war, you can't concentrate your troops effectively if you're also worried about this other city and this other church and how they're doing it,
Mm.
and uh like 100%. I think, I mean, I want to see the woke pastors getting ridiculed as much as the next guy. I want to see the church purified, and that's, particularly that proverb of people being led away by death and lies to the slaughter. Like those pastors and woke preachers that are doing that kind of stuff are they need the millstone around their neck, and like, for sure. But maybe that woke pastor in your city's the one you should be dealing with, and you should be going in and confronting that face to face and trying to win people that are walking in the front door to that church, and you don't need to post about it, probably. Like, you
Yeah.
probably don't need to videotape it. You probably, but that's hard to do, and in a sense, it's not glorious. It's not, the limelight isn't there. And I want to use media as much as the next guy. I want to leverage that power. I want to embarrass and expose these lies. But, there are people in our city where we live that need the gospel that aren't getting it, and we need them to get it. And everything I worry about making fun of or fighting with a pastor in the next city is resources potentially that are there's definitely profits and people are supposed to do that. But I just finished reading Jim Wilson's Principles of War again. Immediately when Charlie Kirk got killed, I pulled it off the shelf and went to Pursuit. And I am excited because Doug did a Pursuit article a couple days later, and I had already sent the Pursuit chapter to everybody on our men's chat, because I was like, I knew it's the time for Pursuit. Militaristically, the church militant needs to be ready to chase down, and the way that Jim Wilson talks about it, that's the hard thing to do, because the enemy's kind of falling back to where their food and ammunition and supply depots are, and you're kind of having to go out and chase them down and leave the safety of where you are. And he talked about how there's been very few times where Pursuit has been executed decisively, and they've, in a sense, you don't necessarily just chase them down. It requires you maneuvering faster and kind of getting behind them and flanking them and hitting them, in a different way than just chasing them down. But that, so I read the Pursuit chapter, and I started all the way back at the beginning, and I went through the whole thing. And I just think that he talks about that there are generals that don't understand principles, and there are privates that do. And I think we have a lot of people that are generals in the church that don't understand principles of war. And we have, and I think we legitimately have young men that understand that we should be pursuing right now. We should be taking ground. We should be going after it. And the people in charge don't understand that principle and are saying, no, we paid our building off and nobody's really leaving. We don't have anybody wanting to get divorced. And I think we're good, and so that's, I think, probably some of where that older, younger generation is going to say, hey, look, we got it. You ran a great race. You brought us right up to the edge of the promised land. And there's a lot of Philistines that need to be vanquished. And I understand you're old. You're not going to do it. Just give me that sword. All right. I'm going to take it. I'm going to go and handle this. And you got any ideas and anything I should know before I go? Okay. And then, and them saying to us, go with God, go pursue and use the spiritual weapons that we have to free these captives. And I want it to happen. Like, I want it to happen now. And I don't think it's going to be Candace Owens that's at the front of the charge. She's no Joan of Arc at all. And so, I don't think we need Joan of Arc. I think there's actually legitimate men that are ready to go.
Joan of Arc.
And all y'all out there that are thinking you're Joan of Arc or you're Dinah or you're Esther, just be quiet and let the men handle it. All right? I'm sorry. I agree. You're so loud. The men that are trying to do this can't handle it. We're ready. Just be quiet. I don't want to have to fight you on my way to slay these orcs in Mordor. I'm ready to go.